What's up? Why is it so spooky down here? Shoot, is it Halloween already? Oh, I didn't make a video. Chris is gonna kill me. I gotta make something quick. How about something like this? That was pretty cool, right? Okay, so I originally came up with this idea when I was in the dang dollar store and I found this little rubber bat. Thought it was neat. I thought, hey, you know, that flops around pretty good. There's gotta be something I can do with this. Turns out no, it's not, because it's too floppy. So what I did is I went to a different store and I got this instead. And I modified it a little bit, obviously. I stuck this ruler inside it. It's DIY for you, and I tied its wings together with some strings so that they wouldn't go too far down to give it a nice, nice flap. And the good news is you can absolutely skip this step because I did it for you. I already put it on a blue screen and I filmed it and I keyed it out and I put it on the website for free. So just download it if you don't want to make your own. In After Effects, the first thing we're going to do to start us off is a bit of rotoscoping. Yes, I am a big baby. I always complain about rotoscoping. Really, it's not that big a deal. I could have shot this on green, obviously, but I just feel like it's more of a natural integration if I don't. So I don't really use a green screen when I can afford not to. But anyway, after that roto has been done, we're left with these 3 layers. So on the bottom, I have this clean plate, which is just a still frame, and then I have the footage on top of it, and then the rotoed out layer on top of that. So if I still out just that layer, you see it's rotoed pretty poorly, but that is fine. So I guess first, let's go ahead and take this clean plate, and I'm going to move it to the very top. But I think I'll hit T to bring down the opacity so I can see through it and see what I'm doing. And this is, hey, happy Halloween. If you want to make a spooky ghost effect, here's a good way to do it. That's the coolest thing I've seen in a while. Just gonna bring the opacity down a little bit so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm gonna take a mask and I'm just gonna come down this side and draw a line, but I'm gonna make several points so we have freedom to alter this shape a little bit and just round that off over there. And if you hit M to reveal the mask, you can actually change your mask colors, and I'm having a lot of trouble actually seeing this color, so I'm just gonna change it to something with a little more contrast. Nope, that was a bad idea. That's a bad idea too. I'm starting to get there. Alright, I'm gonna work with this blue. Okay. I suppose at around this point right here, I want to go ahead and set a keyframe. So if I hit M, that would bring up the mask path, which I already had up, but let's say bring it up anyway. And just hit the stopwatch to make a keyframe. And then we're gonna go to the end. See how my head kind of turns and I like look at my arms and torso. So what I want to do is when my face reaches the end of its arc, that's my last keyframe. So I'm just gonna drag this over like so to cover myself up. But now I want to go back to some points in the middle and just alter the mask a little bit to conform to my body. So it'll give us a little bit more of a 3D effect. So it's gonna be really subtle. Nobody's gonna really care about this except for me. Whatever. So our movement is just a little bit less linear that way. So we can turn that opacity back up. And what we have here is this dude straight up disappearing. Isn't that nuts? So to give us a little more of an organic edge. By the way, if you ever want to go to the hospital, go ahead and take a shot every time someone says the word organic in a After Effects tutorial. Let's go ahead and add a rough and edges effect to it. If we turn off our mask visibility, we can see a little bit better what this is doing. If you want to bring that border way up, you can get a little bit of a shapelier edge this way. Maybe you turn up the sharpness of it. All right. So that's me disappearing, but I would like to have my skin and my clothes change color before they disappear. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab the rotoscope layer, which I really should have named. So I'm just going to grab that roto layer and the clean plate and hit Control D to duplicate them. So now we have roto 2 and clean plate 2, and I'm going to place them in between the roto in the clean plate. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to have the rotoscope layer, the second one, the new one, the copy, use the clean plate above it as a alpha matte, right? And then if I grab that clean plate, just grab the layer itself, and I can scoot it over a little bit in time so you can see what this is doing here. And now I can add a color correction to my roto number 2 layer, maybe just a tint.
You have it tinted kind of like a desaturated brown. Alright, so you can see that's starting to just change color a little bit. And so our shape is not exactly the same. We can just go to this clean plate, maybe bring down the sharpness of it. And then if you just change the scale or just change anything really, that'll just give us a different texture. Okay, now we need to make an emitter for our particles. And one way we could do this is just by, since we have the rotoscope already done and we have this mat already, we could use those things in tandem together to generate one. However, since we're using a layer emitter in particular, sometimes that can take a really long time to render anyway. So I'm more comfortable giving it less information to calculate. So instead, I'm just going to draw one. So I'll add a new solid and just make it a completely different color, maybe a nice Halloween orange. It's nice. Bring it up to the top and turn off the visibility for now. And I'm just going to use a mask and just roughly trace out this black shape that we've made. This doesn't need to be even a little bit precise. It's not a big deal. And we're going to keyframe that and follow this animation we've done, just roughly. Change my mask color as well so I can see it. So yeah, as you see, this animation I made here is really ugly, not impressing anybody, but it's fine. It's going to be serviceable. But we do need to pre-compose it, so let's go ahead and pre-compose it. We'll just call it layer emitter. And we need to make it 3D or else it's not going to work with particular. So now we want to add in some bats, and to do that we need our stock footage that I was bragging about earlier. So I'm just going to open up ProductionCrate and let's navigate to the holiday Halloween section. And there we go, it's right here. And just bring that into my composition. I'm just going to drop it into its own comp and just increase the size of this a little bit. I'm going to go to 600 by 600, which is going to cause particular to yell at us. That's going to be too big anyway, but I'm a rebel, I don't care. Go ahead and scale this thing down and just fit it into the middle of the composition. It's already pretty well centered. Just make sure it doesn't go off screen at any point. All right, cool, that's perfect. This is going to be our particle comp. Back in our main composition, we can drag that in, but poke its eye out to shut it off. And we'll add a new solid, which we'll call particular. And as advertised, we're going to add particular to it, huh? We want this to be a continuous emitter, particles per second. We'll leave it at 100 for now. I'll turn it up or down as we see fit. We want to make it a layer emitter. And then there's this twirl down menu that's called layer emitter. So we'll set our layer emitter as a layer emitter. That makes sense to me. So that's so we can see what we're doing. And now it acts really weird at first. You're just going to see some sparkly orange dots. It's beautiful, but it's not what I want. So our layer sampling, we're going to want to be particle birth time so that it sees the layer, the particle is born, but then the particle can go and do its own thing. And we don't really want to use the RGB for anything. We're just using the alpha of this layer. Okay, and now, so you can see we don't have very many particles, and that's really because we do have a lot of particles, but it's only generating them visibly where the alpha exists on this layer. So there's actually lots of invisible particles in this scene. So that's why 100 is not enough, which is why rendering with these layer emitters takes a while, because you need a lot of particles. So let's just go ahead and bring this up, maybe from 100 to about 10,000. Maybe too many, maybe 6,000. All right, that'll work for me for now. And we're gonna change our direction to be directional, and we're gonna wanna rotate it on the y-axis negative 90 degrees, which is gonna make it fly to screen left, which is the way that our particle is facing. If you wanna fly the other way, then you wanna turn it 90 degrees instead. Or if you wanna fly up, you just turn it whichever way you need to go. So we've got those particles moving. I want them to move faster, so let's turn up that velocity, but also the velocity random. And randomness is going to be key in this entire project. Since all of our bats are going to be the same, but we want them to look like they're individuals, we're just going to really need to play with randomness a lot, and I'll show you how to do it. So our velocity random is pretty high. That's great. Let's also go ahead, just setting up the motion of these before we deal with the looks of them. We're going to go to the physics, and under air, if you want to add a little bit of spin amplitude, that'll make them so that instead of just going in a straight line, they'll kind of go up and down along that straight line. So just turn that up a little bit, which is a little bit closer to how a bat would actually fly. And we can also add in, under the turbulence field, allow it to affect the position a little bit, which just adds more randomness to it. You know what, we can go back up to our emitter and increase our direction spread a little bit. So I think it's time to get some bats in here. So let's do it under particle. you're going to want to set your particle type to a sprite, and then our texture, we'll go ahead and grab that particle that we have at the very bottom. I told you it would yell at us. Don't be offended. It yells at everybody. And now our bats are here, but they're very, very tiny. So let's scale them up a little bit. It's looking about right. They're all the same right now, so that's no good. So let's add a little bit of size random as well. And this is a good one. Under time sampling, set it to random loop, so they can be at any point. And now they're all flying differently. That's going to do a lot for us. Under rotation, we can go ahead and have it orient towards the motion, so that they face the way they're supposed to be flying. But this actually seems to have turned our bats backward. So under rotate Z, we can go ahead and just rotate them around until they're facing the right way again. Looks like 90 degrees is gonna do it. I didn't do it at all. 180, that's the ticket, that's what we want. Cool, so now those bats are facing in the right direction. Okay, so something I noticed here at the beginning is that we're getting a few bats that are partially transparent, like a spooky Halloween ghost. Maybe that's not what you want though, because the reason that's happening is when it's sampling our layer emitter, sometimes it'll sample a pixel that's right between the transparent and the non-transparent part. So it's gonna give you a partially transparent spooky ghost bat, and that's no good. But an easy way to take care of that is just add a levels effect, drop it onto the particular layer, and switch it to effect the alpha, and just choke it in until those bats disappear. Check this out. Here's one. Here's one. Cool, now he's gone forever. Okay, so we've got our bats. We can unsolo this so we can kind of see what's going on here. Hide that layer emitter because we don't need that in our lives. So why don't we add some shading to these guys? That's really easy. We actually have a twirl down menu for it somewhere around here. Yeah, under shading. We're gonna go ahead and turn on this one that's called Shadowlet for main. And when you have lots of particles, this can get kind of dark, just like my past. It's not looking too bad here, but if we were to add some more bats, which I think I might, yeah, our shadows can start to get a little bit dark. So if yours are looking like solid black, you can just go ahead and change this opacity down to like 2. But I think we were actually doing fine. So we are going to want to color correct these eventually to make them match my flows a little bit more, so the colors make more sense. But we want to also add a little bit of variation to them in color, and here's one way we can do that. Wait until you're happy with the look and the amount of bats and all that and the motion, and then you can go ahead and duplicate this particular layer and change the sprite instead to a sprite fill, and this will just fill in with color. We can turn our shading off for this layer. Right now it's filling in with white, but we want to change this thing here that's called set color to random from gradient, and then twirl down the gradient, which is under color over life. We'll start with this black and white preset, and now we're just going to add in every color that we think bats can be. So, you know, they can be black or gray. They can be like a brown. I don't know if it exists in real life, but I've seen in cartoons and stuff, they make them purple, so we'll add a few purple ones. And if you want to make it so there's less of any given color, you just move these points around so that there's, you know, you can control how many of each color there is. What else? Let's Google it. So yeah, we've got purple like this. We have these brown ones, black and gray. Good. Look at this. I don't know if this is, can bats be orange? It's Halloween. Let's make some that are orange. Let's add some orange. Nice, bright Halloween orange. All right, and now we can use this layer and give it a transfer mode of color, and that'll colorize the bats below it. But then we can take down the opacity of that to make our colorization less extreme. And just do that in case, and now our bats have some color variation as well. So we wanna grab our particle layer, both our particular layers, and our emitter light that was created, and the layer emitter. All of that is necessary for this. And we go ahead and pre-compose all of those together. This way we can do our final color correction. So let's add a curve effect. And I'm just gonna pull down the brightness. And when you pull down the brightness, it gives the illusion of adding a lot more saturation. So we can add a tint effect to kind of counteract that. Won't have it turned up all the way. And I'd say we're basically there. That's how you do this turning into bat.
Yeah, you should totally do all that stuff that we always tell you to do, such as, you know, subscribe this YouTube channel, and also check out ProductionCrate.com to download all kinds of sweet stock footage and see more tutorials like this. And you can also follow us on Instagram to see all kinds of sweet stuff. And if you don't have Instagram, that's cool because we post similar stuff on Facebook too. And if you're trying to tell me you're on Facebook, sorry, I don't believe you. Well, that's it for today. Happy Halloween. Bye!